Suzuran and a few others finally came out yesterday, and I definitely would have rolled if I hadn't finally started saving up again. For those of you who've already gotten the new units and just wanted to learn more about them, and those who are still undecided on if they'll actually roll or not, this video's for you. And even if you're not gonna try, it's always nice to know about the operators who may spook you in the future. The new event, Twilight of Wolumonde? I don't know how to pronounce it really. Well, it's here, and you can get quite a few things, including new furniture, a total of 32 Originite Prime if you manage to clear everything, a new welfare operator at max potential, and quite a few mats from the event shop, including a total of 500,000 LMD, which I'm incredibly thankful for. Other than that, we also got new operators on the banner, Click, Ayerscarpe, and Suzuran. I'm quite excited to talk about them, so let's just cut to the chase. Click is the newest 4-star caster, and she's quite the interesting operator. Why? Well, she has the very unique trait of having a float unit. Her attack seems very low, and that's true. It's even lower than Duran's, but that's because her float unit also attacks. When they're attacking an enemy, she's attacking it normally while the unit slowly builds up its attack, starting at a scale of 20% of Click's attack and getting all the way up to 110%. The non-elite stats on the side are just for show, so with E1 max stats, it'd be something like this. Her attack would be 264, while its would be 52. With each attack, it increases by another 15% of her attack, so the numbers would end up looking like this. After the first attack, it takes 6 more hits for it to get to that 110% attack, but in the end, both of them together will be hitting for 554. They only have a 1.3 second attack time, so her very low attack shouldn't be much of a problem as her float unit gets to its maximum capacity fairly quickly. And on that note, both Click and her unit gain attack speed +6 or +1282 as a talent. Her first skill increases her attack by 50%, and I'm pretty sure this also scales onto the drone since its power is directly scaled off of hers. This ends up increasing her attack to 396 at E1 max, which is still pretty low, but with the help of her buddy, it technically ends up being 831. Now that's much better. Sadly, this skill doesn't even last a full half minute, but its charging time isn't too long at 37 seconds, so they should be dealing more damage together fairly often. But honestly, that doesn't really matter, because Click's trait is mostly utilized with her second skill, plus overall it's just objectively better. First of all, it increases her range, which is always good, and increases her attack by 58%. This ends up leaving her at 417 attack at E1 max, and at its max, the drone has 458 attack. Together, they're at 875. But the thing is, this time the drone locks onto an enemy instead. I don't really know how to explain that part all too well since I don't have any visuals, so I'll leave a video in the description that shows off this skill. Anyways, another thing that happens is that both Click and the float unit have a 23% chance to stun the enemy. In total, that's 46%, so it's almost a 50-50 chance as to whether this will kick in or not. If RNG is being nice, that is. Overall, she's probably one of the most unique casters, if not units, in the entire game because of this drone gimmick. If she sounds fun and you didn't roll, I suggest throwing a few single rolls at this banner since she's a 4-star and it's highly likely you'll get her.
天才トランスポーターの護衛、エアースカーペだ。よろしく頼む。
Ayerscarpe is the newest ranged guard, and I honestly have no idea how to pronounce his name correctly. Despite that, I really do hope he comes home someday because I love this archetype of unit. He also looks super cool, and if I'm not mistaken, he's Leonhardt's bodyguard or something of the sort. His talent isn't all that flashy, and there's not much to discuss. He gives himself and any allies in the 8 tiles around him a little bit extra attack speed, +4 at E1 and +8 at E2. Short and sweet, nothing to say. His first skill though, I simply adore it. In short form, it increases his attack by 40% every 4 hits, then deals that in magic damage to 3 enemies. While skills that increase attack stats every few hits usually boost it way more than just 40%, keep in mind he's not only doing it to a single enemy in front of him. His base attack plus the extra 40% is now 758, but also not really. Since he's hitting 3 enemies with that, it's technically increasing his attack all the way up to 2,274, but that's just being divided between the 3. Granted, if there's only one enemy ahead of him, he'll only hit that one with 758, but it's always nice to look at the bigger picture. It also slows him for a second, which isn't really much, but inflicting slow for 1 second every 5.2 seconds isn't that bad at all. Now, his second skill is honestly top-notch in my opinion. It increases his range, and any enemies that are being blocked by allies in that range will receive 130% of his attack and magic damage as well, that being 704 at E1 max to be precise. It does say every attack will deal an additional X damage, so the word additional makes me assume that the enemies he's blocking will also be getting attacked normally. So they'll be getting hit with the usual 542 attack and an extra 704 of magic damage. So even if there aren't any other allies blocking enemies in those 8 tiles, he's still getting a huge attack boost. Its charging time is a little lengthy, but 53 seconds isn't too bad at all for what this skill does. Ayerscarpe seems like a great addition to the ranged guards we already have and is definitely worth investing in. Plus, in his E2 art, he's wearing a crop top, and that's just iconic, really.
Lodos オペレーターのリサ。いえ、スズランです。オペレーターのスズランと申します。これは自分で選んだコードネームなんですよ。今日から正式にオペレーターとして作戦に参加しますので、よろしくお願いします。
Last but not least, we got Suzuran. Her true name is Elisa, and she's the cutest little thing. Her ears are bigger than her head. I love her. Supporters are an interesting type of unit since they always do different things that, well, support the team. Her first talent already demonstrates that by giving all supporter allies an extra 0.2 or 0.4 SP every second. Sadly, this doesn't stack with other talents that do a similar thing, but it's still pretty good. Even if she's the only supporter on your team, this will still apply to herself, and especially at E2, it makes quite a big difference. Her second talent is really good. Whenever an enemy in a range is slowed, any damage they receive will be increased by 20%. Damage received doesn't necessarily mean attack up. First, you'd have to calculate how much damage an enemy would be receiving. In a case where there are no defense debuffs, with physical damage it'd be a simple calculation of the operator's attack minus the enemy's defense. Then add an extra 20% of that damage from Suzuran's talent. Art's damage is a little more complicated, but in its simplest form, it's a subtraction of the enemy's magic resistance as a percentage of your ally's attack. And once again, that damage increases with Suzuran's talent. Moving on to her first skill, it increases her attack by 60% and attack speed by 15. This ends up increasing her attack to 691 and makes her attack about every 1.62 seconds instead. While that's definitely solid, I'm not the biggest fan of the fact that it has automatic activation. Usually with these types of skills, you wait to use it when you know you'll be facing a swarm of stronger enemies, but you can't really do that in this case. Although I guess it's not really a big problem since it only takes 20 seconds to charge without even counting her first talent, and it lasts for 26 seconds, so no biggie. Her second skill only increases her attack by 30%, being 561, but now she can attack 2 enemies simultaneously and it lasts forever. In most other cases, I would prefer a skill like her first one over one like this, because even though it lasts until the end of the battle and makes her attack 2 targets, it takes quite a bit of time to charge just to get a 30% attack boost. But you have to keep her E2 talent in mind. Since she'll be attacking 2 enemies simultaneously, your other allies can attack either of those enemies and get the 20% extra damage while they're slowed instead of just one. There's rarely ever a case where everyone is attacking the same enemy, so this is incredibly useful. Third skill is the Absolute Charm though. Her range increases by quite a bit, and instead of attacking enemies, she just slows every enemy within that range. The real good thing about this is the fact that she increases her second talent's effectiveness by 70%, meaning that instead of the enemies receiving an extra 20% damage, they receive an extra 34%, which definitely makes a huge difference. Not to mention, while all your allies who are attacking these slowed enemies are doing a ton more damage, if they're within her new range, they restore 11% of her attack and HP every second. At E230, that would be 138, and at the end of 29 seconds, it ends up being 4002 HP. That pretty much tops up everyone. Of course, some allies will still be receiving damage from enemies, so they won't be at 100% of their HP, but this will allow your medics to take a nice little break. Suzuran's second talent and third skill make her an incredible unit and definitely worth at least a 10 roll to see if you can get her, if you're not religiously saving up, that is. That being said, she only gets this good once she's E2'd. She's perfectly fine beforehand, but nowhere near what she can be. So if you're not ready to invest tons of materials and go LMD broke but still got her anyways, you may not be using her all that much until you can afford to promote her. Those were all the new units we got. Did you roll on the banner? If so, please tell me who you managed to get. If all the units you wanted came home, I can celebrate with you, and if you didn't get anything you wanted, well, we can just suffer and gacha hell together. Thank you for watching, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you another day.